What's up, Dominators? Welcome back to the TCG Share channel. Today I'm presenting to you my introduction to Weiss Schwarz, the game. So I'm gonna be doing an in-depth review or introduction actually about Weiss Schwarz and how to actually play the game and how to actually start the game. So for new players that are coming to the game and want to know how to actually play the game and learn the mechanics, this is a very good video about to learn. Yeah, so as you can see, this is the playmat that is basically what I got from one of my shop owners, Wilson. Thank you very much. Go and check out his website. He sells Weiss Schwarz as well. If you are looking for any English or Japanese Weiss Schwarz cards, you can go to his website. It's Silver Queen down below in the description box below, so you can check it out. So thank you very much for lending the playmat. And yeah, I'll put timestamps in the video as to how which section you want to jump into. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. So first part, we have the stage. So this is the stage, like the field that you're going to play on. You know, every card game has a field. So you can see the difference between the stages of other card games compared to Weiss. So first we have the waiting room, the standard drop zone, graveyard, whatever you want to call it. You have your main deck, which consists of 50 cards. Your memory zone, and then we have your center stages. So this is the 3 front center stages that you can place your cards on. We have the backstage for supporter cards, the clock, the level, climax, and the stock. So that's basically it for the stage. I think it's quite simple. I'll explain more in detail later on during the attack phase what each of these mean. But basically the objective of this game is actually to push your opponent to level 4. So level 4 you will lose the game. That's how you actually start and play the game. Cards wise, we're gonna jump into the next section. So cards, I think it's more important to explain what's the meaning of cards. So we have 3 different types of cards. We have event card, which is right here. We have a normal card, like a normal character card, and then of course we have the climax card. So these are more commonly the event cards. Not events. There's more the commonly cards that you will obviously see in Weiss. So climax cards is a must of have 8, no more, no less in the deck. You must have 8 climax cards, but of course they are a little different because each deck can runs like different climax combos, and you see the symbol right at the top right here. This square pens thingy, abbreviations for pens. So yes, each climax in Weiss has a different ability. So I'll list all the abilities right now. You can see, and you can pick one that is interesting to you and start a deck from there. So yeah, anyways, moving on. So this climaxes, you must have 8, no more, no less in the deck. The other 42 cards, because it's a 50 card deck, no more, no less, it can be consisting of events and character cards. So an example of an event will be something like this. Doesn't have any power compared to a character card. You can see that character cards have power. So event cards are basically played usually on your turn, and then you may just discard it from your hand immediately to play the effect and resolve the effect. But of course, some events have this very fist symbol right below it, which denotes that this card is actually a backup card, so it can be played during your opponent's turn as well. So most events are usually played during your turn, but if the event has this fist thingy, it can also be played on your opponent's turn. Moving on to the character card. So the character card, it's pretty much simple. You have the power. You can see the level of here. So you have to be level 3 in order to play this card. You have to use 2 costs. So in order to play this card, you need to play 2 stock. So that's where your stock zone actually comes into play. The ability, which I'm not going to get into. Power, which in this case is a 10k power. Soul count. So soul count is this very hopefully you guys can see this very Saints Row trigger right at the bottom of the card next to the power. It denotes how much damage this card will deal. So in this case, it will deal 2 damage because there's 2 souls. Then we have the traits right here. So this is anniversary card, it's a music card, and it's a Rosella card. So traits do matter in this game because some cards require traits in order to activate. Like if you have a anniversary card on the field, you can activate this effect. If you have a music card on the field, you can activate this effect. So it's important to know and build your deck around the same traits. Last but not least, on the top right, we have the Saints Row trigger again. So I'll explain more about what the Saints Row trigger do in the attack phase, because now I think it's not really that important. But just so you know, some cards will have this trigger at the top right while others don't. But some cards, of course, have other special abilities. For example, I'll give you this card right here. So this card is, if you see the ability at the bottom, it's alarm. So the ability is called alarm instead of a backup. So instead of a fist, it's some of a clock symbol. So what's the difference is, for alarm, right? And then there are cards that are actually backups as well, but in the form of a character card. So you can see that this is a backup card, but it's in the form of event, while this card is in the form of a character. So you can actually call and place it onto the field in order to attack or whatever. The thing that I have to mention is color. So color, of course, it matters in this game because there are different colors for different cards. As you can see, we have a mixture of colors. We've got red, we have green, we have blue. So ideally, decks, right, when you build around that, you want to have like a dual color most of the time. But some decks can run tri-colors and some decks even run quad colors. For now, I think that's basically it for the cards. So I'm just going to transition into the attack phase. Alright, welcome back, Dominators. So we are here with the Weiss Schwarz setup. So I've set it up to be like you versus an opponent kind of style where we have two playmats. Alright, so first, the basis of the game is obviously, in order to win, you have to deal 28 damage to your opponent. So 28 damage in terms of 7 times 4. So one level, it consists of 7 cards in your clock, and then once you have 7 cards in your clock, you will choose one card from your clock out of the 7 cards and put it into your level zone, and then from there you level up from level 0 to 1 to 3, and then finally it's level 4, which is where you either win the game or you lose the game. Alright, so now I'm gonna explain the mechanic called cancelling. Cancelling is very important and it's kind of like a key mechanic of the game. That's why it's kind of fun. If your opponent's dealing 7, you're supposed to flip the top 7 cards of your deck and put it into your clock. But on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th card, you hit the climax and then all the damage is cancelled and all the cards just go back to the waiting room. So that's how Weiss works. It's very important to know how to deal exact damage. Moving on, so we're gonna start with the actual basis of the game. So starting the game, how each person suffer the deck, you decide who goes first. So the first part of the game, right, is you draw 5 cards. Each player draws 5 cards. So each player draws 5 cards. And then you may have this stage called the mulligan stage. So the mulligan stage is basically both you and your opponent are able to throw cards from their hand into the waiting room, and then you draw that amount of saving card. My right hand right here is going first, so you stand and draw. So I'm going to list the phases down right now in the video so you can see, and later we're going to expand into each of the phases. So currently is the stand and draw phase. So start the game, you stand and draw. After that, there's the phase called the clock and draw phase. So clock 1, draw 2 phase. This is why I like to call it. Basically, it's optional for you to take 1 card from your hand and deal yourself 1 damage in order to draw 2 and more additional cards. So that's the core, one of the mechanics in the game. It's optional, definitely. You don't have to keep doing this, taking 1 damage in order to draw 2 cards. So after the clock 1, draw 2 phase, we have the main phase. So main phase is where basically you can call cards down on the field to beat your opponent with. And of course, you activate all the skills like on-play skills and card effects, which I'm not going to get into. We move on to the climax phase. So before your attack phase, there's this phase called the climax phase. That's what these 2 yellow boxes are for. Most of the time, you can play a climax if you have a climax on your hand. So in this case, when you play a climax, you will activate the climax ability. And once you play a climax, you can start the attack phase. So this attack phase is going to be a little bit long. I'm gonna expand it out a little bit. So in the attack phase, it's quite simple. You choose which cards to attack in the front row, and take note that only front stages characters can attack. Take note that the first player going first can always call as many cards as they want from the hand to field, but only can declare one attack during the first turn. Second player going after us can declare as many attacks and call as many cards as they want after that. First is if there's no character in front. So if there's no character in front, you deal 1 additional damage. So we call it 1 additional soul. So in this case, this is 1 soul. Directing attack gains 2. And then if you are playing a Climax, this Climax gains additional 1k, 1 soul. So it's a 3 soul attack. But before the 3 soul, you remember your so-called trigger check. So you flip the top card of the deck. If you check for the soul trigger at the top right hand card side of the card. So if it does contain a soul trigger like this, it deals an additional 1 more damage. So but in this case it doesn't contain a soul trigger, so you're dealing 3 damage to your opponent. And the card that you flip goes right here to the stock. That's how you pay out stock and how you pay cost for abilities. So in this case 3 damage. If your opponent flips the Climax, they are able to cancel, but if they don't, it just carries on. So moving on to the next attack. So this is the 1, 2, 3 flip top card. It's not a soul trigger, it's just 3 damage. So your opponent flips 1, and since he hits a Climax, it cancels and goes to the waiting room. And that's basically the end of the attack step. That's the end of your turn. Alright, I have shown what it's like to have no character right opposite your card, but in this case now we're going to show you what happens if there is a character right across. In this case, you can see, compare the 2 power of these cards. This card right here is 2000 power, this card right here is 1005. So when you declare an attack, before you do a trigger check, you must declare 2 types of attack. So first, there is a front attack and there's a side attack. So the difference is, when you declare a front attack, you are directly competing with the card right opposite your card. So in this case, you are comparing power. This card is 1005, this card is 2000. Of course, you lose in power. So that's a frontal attack. The full damage will go through, in this case, is 1, 2 damage only because you have a character right across. It's not a direct attack, so it doesn't gain the additional 1 soul. And then you do a check. And since you hit the soul trigger, you can see the soul trigger right here, you do an additional 3 damage. You do additional 1 damage, so that's 3. And take note, since you're battling with your opponent that is higher power than you, this card becomes in reverse. So cards that have higher power over your card, you do not send it immediately to the waiting room like death, I would say. You have to reverse the card first. So it's in reverse position, so your card will be pointed towards your opponent. And your opponent will take 3 damage. In this case, it cancels, so it doesn't matter. So in this case, that the card stays in reverse until all the attacks have been completed, and then we get to the Encore Phase, which I'll explain later. So that's for front attack. Now I'm going to switch sides, and we're going to go over to my left hand right here, this position. So currently I am in control of these 2 cards. And as you can see, I want to attack this card right opposite, but it's higher power than me, and I don't want to lose this card on the field because I think it's a very important card. So I may do what's called a side attack. So a side attack is basically not competing in terms of power directly with the card across you. You attack, declare a side attack. Side attack means it goes around the card and deals damage to your player based on how much soul that this card has. But the setback is you have to take the level of the card that's opposing. So in this case, it's level 0. You take the soul count minus the level of this card. So in this case, you take 1 minus 0. So the attack still deals 1. This is a very good example of siding attack. So in this case, the power is 10k. This power is 500. I don't want this card to die. So I will side the card instead. It goes around. Currently it's 1 soul only. You take 1 minus 3. So the current soul count of this card is minus 2. Even if you do a check and you hit a soul trigger, the attack still deals minus 1 because minus 2 plus 1 is still additional. It's still minus 1, sorry. Even though it's additional 1. So even though you don't deal damage to your opponent, you let this card live. That's the point of siding attack. Now I'm gonna explain the phase before your end phase. It's called the Encore Phase. So let's just say it's all the end of the attacks. You're on the player on the left right here. So on my left, whenever a card is being sent from the stage to the waiting room, there's this Encore mechanic built into all cards, which is whenever whenever the card is sent, you may actually pay 3 stock. So this is the inbuilt mechanic All cards has this unless specifically state on the card text or skill that you have a different Encore cost to pay. So you can pay 3 stock in order to place that character back in the same slot as a rest card. So this is basically if you have a lot of stock in the late game or in early game and you want to pay out the stock because you check some climaxes or something, you can always pay 3 to encore the character back onto the stage as in the rest position, in the same position as where they were before. You retire all characters that are in reverse position, so you can retire this, you can retire this. And then at the end of the opponent's or your turn, you must make sure to not exceed a hand size of 7. So the maximum hand size in this game is 7. So in this case, if my hand size were to be, let's just say 8 right here, you can see there's 8 cards. I will have to take 1 card from my hand and discard it. So it can be any card. Last but not least, I think if you have time, you have money, and you like anime stuff, you can give Weiss Schwarz a try. And I think it's best to find a friend or a community that accepts the game and will play the game along with you so that you can gain more experience and more knowledge about the game. So if you want, you can always find me and my friends at Zark Games, link description, I think in the box below, you can check it out. Zark Games, I'll be there every Saturday most of the time, and you can just always ask me for a game and I'll probably play with you. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you very much, Dominators, for watching my quick guide to Weiss Schwarz. Hope you guys liked it, and I'll be posting more content in the future. So for now, this is TCGCI, and I'm out. Peace.